Hi guys, welcome in. Tammy here with Bentley Lane Creations, coming to you with this cute little large gingerbread maker gnome. He is a shelf sitter and has all the goods. He has his gingerbread cookie, his whisk, his spoon, his mixing bowl, and his cute little rolling pin. Now, per usual, I am removing all the pieces and setting them in their categories. So I like to set them in the category by color. So whatever color they're going to be painted, I remove them. I dry fit them. Then I decide what colors I'm going to use. Then I divide them by color. And then I start painting from there. Now I'm doing his hat and his feet and the back in the Waverly Wax in the color Antique. I like this because it just looks like a stain, but it also is brown and it kind of goes with, all the colors that I'm going to be using in my decor for the Christmas season. Now, I use the traditional reds and greens, so that's what I'm going to go with here. And just add a little bit of other colors to kind of that complement it. So as you see, I'm just doing the rim of his hat, his hands, his hat, his body, and the backside of him and his feet are all in this Waverly Wax, and the stand as well. So I just did the stand. And then I'm going to do, these are his little socks or legs, pants, whatever you want to call them. I think that they look like socks to me. And those are going to be white. And I'll use another color to do the stripe. But I'm doing, so here's what I do. If I'm using the Waverly Wax, I only do one coat. If I'm using paint, I use 2 coats. So because his socks are striped, I want to do the base coat in one of the stripe colors. So in this case, I'm doing white. And on these pieces that I'm painting in white over here are his frosting, and those are going to stay white. Now, these striped pieces, you can see that I did those 2 long strips there with the lines going diagonally through them. Those are also going to be striped in another color. So I'm going to do the base in white, and then I use my Dollar Tree tool to clean out those lines, and then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to paint them in this color of red. This is the Crafters Collection red. This is the Hobby Lobby brand paint. There is it is not a special color. It is just simply called red. I think it's a really pretty red. It's a really pretty red for Christmas stuff. So I decided to use that one. And I'm going to paint his body in red. The frosting and the heart that go on the mixing bowl are getting painted in red. And the candies, the peppermint candies, are also being painted in red. And I did the other piece that goes in the center of those in white. And then I did the holly berries, the 3 little berries there in red. And now I'm doing every other stripe is going to be red on both of these pieces that have the stripes. It's very, very simple. And for this part, now when I'm painting the rest of the pieces, I do use the makeup sponges. You know, I use the makeup sponges. I love those little wedges. They're the little triangular wedges that you can get in the bag of 100 or however many come in a bag. They're all different shapes and sizes of bags. But, and I usually cut those in 4s or 6s. So, and that's what I'm using here to paint this. But when I'm doing stripes or anything small, I will use a really thin brush. So, for instance, on the little gingerbread, you see his little cheeks have the hearts. And I painted those with the same thin brush that I'm using now to do his frosting on his head, and that I used to do the frosting on his arm and his 2 legs. I used that same brush to do the 2 little red hearts on his cheeks. Now those are engraved in there, so you don't have to freehand them. You just fill them in with whatever color you prefer. And that's the same brush that I will have used to do the stripes on those other pieces. Now the spoon I decided to do in gold, and the rolling pin I'm going to do in black. And you see I did his nose up here, down at the bottom here, the nose and the top of the spoon that's supposed to look like drips. I did that, and I did the gingerbread cookie all in the color burlap. That is Deco Art burlap. The gold that I use is antique gold. That is by Deco Art. The black is just traditional Crafters Collection black by Hobby Lobby, and that's the same red on the ends that I used on the body and those other frosting pieces. And this is green, shamrock green. This is also Crafters Collection paint. And then the light gray is also Crafters Collection. That's the Hobby Lobby brand. And I do the whisk in light gray because I want it to be in the metallic silver, but metallic silver only does well if you put it over another color. It really makes that silver shimmer when you put it over another color. So I always just put a light gray underneath it. Now the bowl I decided to do in a light pink, and it's just called pink actually. And that's Crafters Collection pink. And then the leaves here, the holly leaves, I did in what they call a spring green. And then I went over it with that shamrock green, which is a little darker. And then I went over that with the spring green again. It kind of gives it that variated look. It made it look more real and more in depth. And then I went around the edges in the darker shamrock again. And then I added a little bit of white with that dried sponge to around the berries. And then I used this brush here just to add some little extra elements there. I'm just doing some little dots and lines with the regular white paint, just embellishing it here and there wherever I see fit. And I decided to use that shamrock green on his socks. So every other stripe, it'll be white and green stripes on his socks. So stinking cute. I thought it was a way to tie in the green. And I, like you saw, I used the green on the handle of the whisk, and then in the holly leaves. So we've got red, white, green, pink, a little bit of gold, a little bit of black, and then of course the browns, the burlap, and then the Waverly Wax in antique. Now here I'm just embellishing this a little bit with some little dots to make it look like flour is on the pinwheel there. And then I used the white sponge to go around it just to give it a little bit more depth. And now I'm using my, I love this, my Distress Oxide, and I'm just going around all the edges to make them look a little more, I guess you could say baked or weathered or rustic, however you want to say it. Now you could totally forego doing this, leave this part out if you prefer it without. This is just my personal preference. I love using this. I love the way it makes the pieces look. But again, some people don't like that look. And so you can style these, paint these. That's the beauty of this. You buy them, they're DIY, and you can do them up in your style, in your colors, and it will be absolutely amazing. Now, this Distress Oxide that I used around his nose is called Flamingo. And it's just a pink color, and I use it sometimes for rosy cheeks or sometime around noses and things like that. You can also use, if you don't have that and you don't want to buy it, you can use blush. So you can just use a regular blush that you would use, makeup blush. And I sometimes buy those at the Dollar Tree as well. They're $1.25. And I use those for cheeks and faces and things like that. And it will totally stay. So that's another little tip for you. So here I'm just adding some embellishments. Again, I just do my pieces. I just keep adding to them. Sometimes I add stuff and then I paint over it because I don't really like the way it looks. And that's the beauty of paint. You don't have to worry about messing it up. There's no messing it up. You just paint right over it again if you don't like it or if something isn't just quite right. And that's what's so fun about these, I think, is the simplicity of it. So now you can see as you're putting it together, there are there are little grooves um, engraved where everything goes. So you never have to guess about where it goes. So those two pieces with the X's in behind the scenes, those hold that away from the body, all those pieces, and that is engraved as well. His body is engraved where those go, which way they go, and all the things. So this is what I generally do. I'll put the whole piece together, dry fit it, make sure I have everything where it is supposed to go, and then start gluing from there. I cannot stress that enough, because sometimes you think you know which pieces go where, and then you get the glue on and you put it down and you realize it might fit that piece, but then the other piece doesn't fit the other side. So it's always best if you dry fit them first. That way there's no stress in it. But generally speaking, these are very forgiving, and even if you do mess it up a little bit, nobody would ever know. You'll learn to improvise. And that's kind of the beauty of these as well. And sometimes people don't even use some of these pieces on here on the thing. Sometimes they'll use those pieces to create something else. It's very cool. That's what I love. That's why I love arts and crafts, because it's all up for interpretation. It's what you like, what you love. You style it to fit your needs or your decor, or if you're selling them, you may want to do a few of them and in different ways. And I have a lot of clients like that. And I'm always amazed when they send me their photos of how they've completed theirs. They're always so cute. Now, I use Stick Fast Super Glue Gel to glue mine together. You can use any kind of wood glue you prefer. I just don't recommend hot glue. You can use hot glue, but it just won't last the test of time. That's all. That's the only negative with that. How stinking cute is this guy? I cannot wait to get him in my kitchen at Christmas. Thanks for joining me, friends. Have a great day.